Hello everyone. Let's start today's discussion on very important topic that is a project management skill for the business analyst and this like skill required for the big four companies or the investment bank, international wealth management firm like the JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Deloitte, KPMG, EY, HSBC Bank. Topmost bank will ask you the question on the basis of project management skill for the business analyst because they want the candidate who have the project management skill as well as the management skills. So recently, this question asked me in the one of the topmost firm to go project management skills or the business analyst. So I'll created these videos for you guys. Please like and subscribe my channel, and if you like my videos, please to do comment on that. So let's start a discussion on the project management skill for the business analyst. So introduction, the business analyst involving role. So what are the roles are involving the business analyst, and what do the business analyst? First let's give you the discussion on that, and then we will start to the what are the project management skills the BA should have. So the business analyst has a bridge. The BA is a bridge between connecting the business need and the technical solution. So business analyst will continuously communicate or interacting with the business team and the technical team to understand the requirement from the business team or the subject matter, and get that requirement develop, convert that requirement into the functional or non-functional requirement or the technical requirement, and get the technical development from the technical team. So that's the role of the business analyst. Beyond the requirement, in the today's skill or the today's area, modern BA increasingly involved in the project life cycle management, budgeting, how the project should work, and the project management skill is also required for the business analyst. So why PM skill are important for the business analyst, and why these skill are the topmost companies are required for the business analyst. So that will enhance the project success rate. If the business analyst know the project management skill, then he will be contribute to success of the project, and he will know very well understand the feasibility analysis for the project, and improve the collaboration with project managers, understand the requirements of project manager and the project life cycle, understand the entire project life cycle and the project manager roles and responsibilities. Accordingly, he will perform the tasks and proactive issue identification and resolutions, and the better stakeholder satisfaction. If the business analyst understand these things very well, then he will be able to satisfy the stakeholder very good way, and understand the stakeholder to communicate the stakeholder with using the requirement initiation technique, and update them the progress of the projects. So that's the the business analyst role. So let's start with the most important slide, that is the key project management phases and BA involvement. So what are the key phases that in the project management? What are the the BA involvement in that phases, and what are the roles and responsibilities and the objective of business analyst in that each phases? So I'll give you the detailed description on that. Okay, so first phase is initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and the closure. So in initiation, the role of business analyst to do the feasibility study, to do the enterprise analysis, SWOT analysis, gap analysis, to do the pestle analysis, and then define the business cases, identify the stakeholder, to do the stakeholder analysis, to use a RACI matrix, to responsible accountant, consult, inform stakeholder, to do the high impact, high greed, high interest, or the high power stakeholder, to do the stakeholder to prepare the stakeholder document where include all the stakeholder. So these are the key roles and responsibilities of business analyst in the initiation phase. And then the planning is the most important phase. Okay, so the in that planning phase, while to gather the detailed requirement from the key stakeholder, to using the requirement illustration technique like questionnaire, interview, chat session, brainstorming session, team meetings, workshops, document analysis, observation, to gather the requirement from the clients, and then define the in-scope functionality, out-scope functionality, scope definition, problem statement, goal of the project, or the objective of the project. understand all these things, and then to input the project schedule, to to define the milestone, to prepare the work breakdown structure, to structure to break down the works and risks identification. What are the risks in that project, or identify the risks like the operational risks, or the technological risks, or the economical risks, or the budgeting risks, to identify that risks and work on that risks. And then the execution phase. So BA a role in requirement clarification, supporting development and managing the changes, how to execute the role, execution finally, to requirement clarification of the development team. If they're open point, then gather the requirement related to that from the business side, and then supporting development and managing the changes. There is a continuously comes from the change request, or the client wants to existing function changes, so accordingly manage that changes as per the business requirement, and explain that to the development team. So these are done in the execution phases. And then one is a monitoring and control. So the BA role in monitoring and control is the tracking the requirement with requirement traceability matrix, to track the requirement. If suppose there are the thousands requirement or the hundred requirement, so track each requirement from the each phases of SDLC, like requirement gathering, requirement analysis, design, development, coding, testing, and feedback, to track each requirement and what stage of that requirement. Managing the scope changes, if there is a scope change by the client, so manage that entire thing, budgeting, time approval. So all these things done by the business analyst, and then reporting on the requirement stage status to the client or the power of the stakeholder, understand them. And finally the closure. So on the closure state, be a role validating the final solution against the requirement and lesson learned. So what are the final output to do the UAT testing? Check has business, what has the system will work or not work, and accordingly what are the business requirement are matches with the functional or the solutions requirement, to do that thing in the test case, to do the testings. And the finally production deployment support. So let's start one by one skill. So first skill is a stakeholder management. So guys, as a business analyst, you should have the strong stakeholder management scheme. You should understand this, who are the stakeholder, what are their roles and responsibilities, and which stakeholder will help my what problem. So you should understand that thing, and you should have the clear cut document, stakeholder management document, and the RACI matrix to analyze the stakeholders. So responsible, accountant, consult, and inform stakeholder. So so then the identify and analyzing the engage with individual or group impacted by the projects. So in stakeholder management, you should able to identify these stakeholder, like who are the high power, low power, high interest, low interest, the project sponsor, project team, so and the subject matter expert on each model, whenever that thing is help you while you are doing the requirement gathering. So why the stakeholder management is a very crucial or very important techniques for the business analyst? Because it's ensure allow voices are hard. It will give you the opportunity to gather the requirement, and then it will help the business analyst to manage the expectation of end user, how that the end user want that system should work, and building the consensus, and to counteract with the relationship with stakeholder while creating the project. So that's why the stakeholder management is a very essential skill for the business analyst. And the key techniques that is used by the business analyst to do the stakeholder management is a stakeholder analysis, like power and interest grid, will prepare the RACI matrix, to prepare the the subject matter expert analysis tools, and then the communication plan development and the conflict resolution, if there is the conflict between the stakeholder, to resolve that, and the communication plan development. So let's move on. The most important skill is a requirement management. It's the also very important skill that business analyst should have to manage the requirement. So process of documenting, analyzing, and tracking and prioritize the controlling requirement to analyze each requirement, and to it identify or to know the stage of each requirement, to prepare the requirement traceability matrix with they have the clear cut understanding of each requirement is in the requirement gathering phase, requirement analysis phase, design, development, coding, testing, or the deployment phase. So all these things have, and each stage of the requirement, who is the owner of that requirement in their stage. So all this tracked by the business analyst, and the BA core competencies for the requirement management is, this is where the PM and BA skill heavily overlap, and that's the most important thing for the success of the project. So initiation to initiation requirement to requirement gathering with using the techniques like interview, workshop, surveys, brainstorming session, meetings, group meetings. Okay, to gather the requirement and then analyze the requirement, to structuring, validating, and prioritize the requirement on the basis of high urgent, high important requirement, to then the document each requirement, to prepare the document like user story, use case document, business requirement documents, functional specification document, functional requirement specification document. Okay, to prepare the change request document, to do the all the documentation of each document, and then tracker to prepare the traceability, to trace all the requirements in their phase. So linking the requirement to design, development, and testing phase, so we know what stage that the requirement. So that's the requirement management skill is a most essential and important skill for the business analyst. Okay, let's move on. The next skill is a scope management. So the scope management is defining what is and is not included in the project. So business analyst should know very well understand scope functionality is a in scope functionality and out scope functionality, and business analyst should know in that current scrum or in that current BRD what we are considering, what part we are going to develop and what part we are not going to develop. So that clearly mentioned in the in scope functionality and out scope functionality. So we are not we will able to freeze the requirements with the scope. So the BA role in the scope, and the what are the BA should understand in the scope is collaborating with PA to define the project and the scope of the project. So what are the scope we are considering that in the project? So ensuring the requirement align with the scope, and the preventing the scope creep, it helps to prevent the scope creep and uncontrolled expansion of the scope. So that's the role of business analyst in the scope management. So the technique which is used by the business analyst to define the scope management is a clear scope statement. So there is a clearly mention the scope of the statement, requirement baseline, and the change control process, how we can change the control, what are the budget and that thing required while the control of the change. And if there is out of scope change come from the client, then we will immediately update the client that is not in scope functionality, that is the, if that is the in scope functionality, so it is an in scope functionality and we are work, but we are not considering the requirement as you told, so we need to extra efforts, that thing which communicated with the client by the business analyst or the project manager. So risk management, it is an also very important skill for the business analyst. Business analyst should be to do the risk management. He know what are the risks in the ongoing project and how to eliminate that risk project is do accept or not accept. And also I have created the separate video for the risk management, you can watch and understand what is the risk management. So the risk management is a process of identifying, assessing, and mitigating the potential risk around the could impact of the project. There is a positive and negative risks on the projects. Okay, so you should understand you should add or the increase the positive risks on the project and eliminate or reduce the negative risks on your project. So be a contribution to the risk management is to identify the risks related to the requirement, like unclear requirement or the changing priority or the continuously give the requirements, then scope creep. So that's thing understand by the business analysts in detail and update the each stakeholder as per according to that. So assess the impact of risks on the business. If the risk is come, so what are the impact, what are the the functionality are going changes on the business and what are the business value will get changed. So that should be clearly documented in the PowerPoint presentation and explained to the respective clients so they can understand that requirement. And the posting the mitigation strategy, how to uh, uh, proposing the mitigation strategy, how to mitigate that risk, what things we use to mitigate that things, and the example BA related the risks like the stakeholder unavailability, ambiguous requirement, technology limitations, unclear understanding, improper requirement gathering. These are the risks that occurs in the projects, and BA will face this. The risks and to manage that risk. So next one is a communication and collaboration. It is also most important skill for the business analyst. In a communication and collaboration, business analyst will do the effective exchange of information while working jointly with the others. So there is a clearly understandable the the communication with the development team or the business team done by the business analyst and help them to understand that thing in very well. So why it is a paramount for the BA are the central communication for between the business team and the development team. So the BA should good to the communication skill and the collaboration. BA will have the great collaboration with all the team, and the skills that required for the communication and the collaboration is active listening. So business analyst should understand or unspoken need. He should first listen the persons and then to explain them their the understanding. So business analyst should be the good listener or the active listener. Negotiation, reaching the agreement on the requirement and prioritize the requirement. He should have the great negotiation skill. He should explain there the understanding on the features or function, how it should work. The presentation skill, so it's an also important. Articulate the complex information in the clearly and understandable way to the development. The business requirement should explain. The development team has a the technical kind of language, and the technical functionality or the technical things will explain the business team to the the layman terms or the business language. So that's the most important skill the business analyst should have. And the facilitate the leading the work and the meetings and collaboration tools, that is leveraging the platform like Jira, Conflicts, Miro to understand that platform for the requirement gathering to work on that platforms. So that's the communication and collaboration skills the business analyst should have. Let's move on the next skill set, that is the planning and estimation. So the planning and estimation will discuss on the organizational tasks to understand the resource timeline to achieve the project's goal. There are the milestone to achieve within the time, within the budgets. So that will be planning and execution phases. So BA involvement in the planning and estimation are the contributing to work breakdown structure for the requirement activities to prepare the work breakdown structure and timeline the each works, and the assessing with effort estimation for analyzing the tasks to analyze each task, understand the tasks, and providing the input for the project scheduling, and based on the requirement complexity understand each requirement and do the planning and execution for each requirement to prepare the work breakdown structure. So doing all these things, a BA should use the following techniques like decomposition, expert judgment, analogous and parametric estimation to in the planning and execution stage, and it is also most important skill for the business analyst. So next one is the change management. It is an also important. So continuously client will give the change to the business analyst. So business analyst will track each the changes, update the version of the the documents like business requirement document, functional requirement document, requirement resiliency matrix, or the change request document as per the change it's come. And there is the separate life software development life cycle we use in the change, understand what where the requirement and where we need to make the changes. So that all these things will understand by the business analyst in the change management. So the definition of change management is the managing the change to project scope and requirement and the plans and accordingly to do the tasks. So the BA role in the change management is a crucial for analyzing the impact of purpose change on existing requirement or the business processes. What are the process we are going to change of the business? who are the involvement that process, and their roles and responsibilities will very well understand by business analysts, and accordingly create the processes. Basically in change management we will do heavily on the gap analysis, how the currently system should work and how the future system should work, and the documenting the change requested to prepare the change request document, facilitating the change approval process, how to approve the change request, who are the change control body, take the approval from that, and the process of the change request, and then communicating the change to relevant stakeholder, understand their requirement. So that's the key thing, so business analysts will know. And the goal of the change management is to ensure and control the benefits of the change, and that change should be finally deployed in the production environment. That's the key skill of business analyst. So next, move on the next skill. So the quality assurance and the testing. It's the the quality analyst skill. So business analyst should know the quality assurance and the testing, because of the business analyst should know the requirements very well, and the requirements as a business perspective. If business analyst will be the quality assurance or the testing support team, so the accuracy of the product or the project will increase, and business analysts will know very well what is the positive flow of the user, what is the alternative flow of user, what is the exceptional flow of the user, what is the positive test cases, what are the negative test cases, and how that system should work. So the business analyst should always be part of quality assurance and testing team while doing the UAT testing or the SIT testing or the regression testing. Okay, so ensure the delivery solution meets the detailed requirement and the quality standard as the business wants, and all the features or functions will working as the business expected. And then the BA contribution to the quality assurance and testing are define the acceptance criteria for the requirement. What are the acceptance criteria when we say that the requirement is completed, and when we are testing it, it's working as per the requirement. So business analysts will define the acceptance criteria and the stages of acceptance criteria for all kinds of requirement, reviewing the test cases against the requirement to check the test case document is that matches with the requirement, and it's covered all the in scope functionality, and it work as a business wants, and the supporting the user acceptance testing to be a part of user acceptance testing to check work on the demo sessions, to do the the work on the user acceptance testing, prepare the UAT plans and accept or approve the UAT plans, to work on the UAT plans. So that's the quality assurance part by the business analyst, and then identify and clarify the defects related to the requirement. If there is the functionality is not work as per the business expectation, and there is any the defects or any requirement is not work, so that will again the bug in the system, and that reported to the concerned team, like it is related to that. If not gather the requirement, then gathering space. If not development, then assign to the developer or the tester accordingly. So to track is the requirement and focus the delivering solution that it fits the purpose of the business. So that's the business analyst has the key tasks in quality assurance and the testing part. So let's move on the next slide. That's a benefit of PM skill for the business analyst. So what are the benefits business analyst will get? So if you are want to job in the top investment firm or the top big four organizations, so you should have this skill for the PM skill for the business analyst. So for the project, smoother the project execution, reduce the risks and issue, higher the quality deliverable. If business analysts know that quality is then that will be the smoother the project execution, project will execute good smoother, increase the chance of the project success. That's reduce the risks. If there is any risks in that project, so it will be get when and there the risks, and high quality deliverable, quality is expected as per the business need or the business wants. And for the BA, increasing the credibility and influence, enhance the career opportunity, like lead BA, product owner, product manager, or it will give you opportunity to work with the has a lead business analyst, and better understanding for the big picture how that the project will work. You should make yourself as a product project manager and work accordingly. So you will be, the more ideas, beyond the skill set to the project manager, and the stronger partnership with the project manager, and it will help to get the success of that project. So let's move on the next slide, that is the conclusion. So the modern BA in the modern industry, there is the business analyst should have the strong and very strong the project management skill, a strategic partner, not just a documenter, not just able to create the document, not just able to do the testing. It should, have the 360-degree knowledge on the project management as well. And it requires the continuous learning. Project management is a vast field, and ongoing development is a key, and it requires, the that's the level of the knowledge, and it will give the continuous learning, and to understand the domain in perspective of business analyst and the product manager. So that will, the how much budget or the how much time will require to development some features, requirement gathering, requirement analysis, testing. So you will plan accordingly the budget and the timelines for to doing each phase, and improve the yourself power, empower the yourself. So embrace the PM skill to drive the project success and advance your career. It will give you to opportunity to make sell yourself with the project management. So if you guys, if you have any open questions, or if you want more understanding from my side, please the ask and do comments in the question. I'll be happy to answer your questions. So next one, thank you guys for attending that seminar. It's a very interesting seminar, and thanks guys.